Since according to my survey, only a few of you know some American Sign Language, abbreviated ASL, just to let you know, I just signed, nice to see you, my name is Kara Blake. Through using EBSCOhost, I was able to locate academic journals submitted by researchers who have spent years developing their information. The deaf community is just as established as any other ethnic community. As demonstrated by the quote, we have a language, we have a culture. Therefore, this community serves a veritable service to society as a means of acting as a way of preserving diversity and unifying people. Even though the majority of this class said, through the survey, that they have no friends or close relations who are deaf, there still may come a time when you meet someone who is and need a mode of understanding. Throughout this speech, you will learn the importance of positive community awareness, the function of American Sign Language, ASL, to the deaf community, and the differences between a signed and spoken language. And now that you know that the deaf community is a veritable one, I'm going to tell you just how important this community is to deaf individuals. According to the Ontario Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, 4 in 1,000 infants are born deaf. 90% of these children are born to hearing parents who have little to no history or understanding of hearing loss. Due to the fact that so many infants and children are born to hearing parents who don't understand their condition, there is an alarming rate of deaf adolescents who are referred to residential treatment centers because of mental disorders coupled with communication difficulties. Throughout elementary school, many of us have heard about drugs and the power of peer pressure. While this idea is similar to the plight of deaf or hard of hearing adolescents, Louis Stallman reported that interactions among hearing adolescents and those who are deaf is minimal, and close relationships and friendships between the two are very rare. Therefore, the risk of increasing the likelihood of developing psychopathologies or mental disorders is very prevalent among deaf or hard of hearing individuals due to peer rejection. According to K.M. Cole, social isolation, loneliness, and interpersonal conflicts creates damaging psychological effects which are more prevalent among deaf or hard of hearing adolescents. Adolescents who experience peer rejection and the subsequent isolation demonstrate a lowered sense of self-reliance and self-esteem. Society can have a mainstreaming effect upon individuals, and those who are different feel the push to conform. It has been said that deaf or hard of hearing adolescents struggle with social identity, especially when they are cut off from a community that can understand and relate to them. Other than isolation, their only option, and the one that most hearing parents push for, is acculturization, which means that even though they are a different shaped puzzle piece, they have to cope and change in order to be jammed into a hearing world. Weiner and Miller noted that many children who are deaf or hard of hearing remain unexposed to the deaf community or adult deaf culture. It is believed that adolescents who have a strong sense of community awareness and cultural identity are less likely to engage in violent or antisocial behavior. This statement makes sense because if you consider if someone feels as though they have a place in the world where people can relate and understand them, they are very unlikely to act violently against that community which has fostered such a good connection. Weiner and Miller noted that many children who are said that. Now that you know the foundational importance and impact of the deaf community upon deaf or hard of hearing individuals who are stranded within a world of sound which is mute to them, I will next illuminate for you the function of American Sign Language, ASL, upon these deaf individuals. Communication is a revolutionary force. Without it, so many systems fail. The gulf between individuals is impenetrable when there is no bridge of language to foster understanding. Even those who have a full capacity of all of their senses become islands unto themselves with no way to reach out to others without a structured and circulated language for them to make use of. Lacking a major sense, such as hearing, requires a completely different approach to communication, and it has to benefit or compensate for their deficiency, and ASL benefits those who use it very well. According to Rykoff, ASL is a language of natural gestures and pantomime that is easily learned since the relationship between the signs and the meaning are very basic and very easy to understand. Graceful sign making is an art that can be mastered very easily by those who are hearing and those who are deaf. This possibility makes it easy for hearing people to break the language barrier between themselves and those who are deaf, and to create a bond between the two that would otherwise be unable to make. Most people who use ASL have two different names. They have their English name, which is given by their parents and present on their birth certificate. And then they also have a parent-given or peer-given sign name, which is a shorthand abbreviation that represents them within a community. This sign name is kind of like a rite of passage into a community, and it is an essential device of unity, reference, and identity. And now that you know the importance of ASL upon the deaf community, I will next illuminate for you the differences between spoken and signed languages. Imagine you're reading a book, and remember how easy it is for your eye to flit across the page and yet still absorb and retain the information that you're reading. According to research conducted by Wilbur, signed languages are slower to produce because the muscles in your hand that produce the signs are larger than those that you use when you're speaking. But yet, it is easier to perceive a signed message quicker than a spoken because of the speed of light to the eye. Bellucci and Fisher demonstrated that sentences in ASL and spoken English that contain the same number of semantic, which means different meanings, or the same number of meaning word propositions, take roughly the same duration to be said or signed, both ways. Over time, ASL has been adapted to minimize the number of signs while maximizing the information in the message. ASL communicated through visual spatial modes as opposed to English, which is auditory and vocal. A unique aspect of sign languages is the grammatical use of facial expressions and the position of the body or head in relation to the person you are signing to. The head, torso, shoulders, nose, mouth, and pretty much every part of your body, each one has independent articulation and can be used to create layering that, similar to what you would have in a spoken language through your inflection and raising your tone and everything like that. You can create the same things through your patterns of facial expressions and body expressions. We showed that eyebrow height differentiates questions from statements and yes-no questions from WH questions. And maximum eyebrow heights differ significantly by emotion. For example, your angry or upset eyebrow height would be lower than neutral or happy or surprised. And now that you have a newfound understanding of the deaf community, upon its individuals and its language, I hope that if you by chance encounter a deaf individual, you'll have interest in their life and the way that they live and the differences it offers. And in conclusion, you've heard about the importance of positive community awareness, the function of American Sign Language, ASL, upon its members, and the difference between spoken and signed language. And whether one person is born deaf, hard of hearing, or becomes that way through some misfortune, it is very important to the person's health and happiness for them to be immersed in a culture that can understand them and communicate easily with them. ASL is a bridge for those who are lacking normal communication pathways. And overall, the deaf community is a tight-knit one with its own language, its own culture, and its own individual members, and it is just as important and necessary to recognize it as any other ethnic